Hello again. So we move on now to an A grade response for question 2, and question 2 is our linking and analyzing presentation to the text. So what I'm going for here is I'm looking for detailed interpretation of the effect. So I'm going to be saying more than obviously what the last student said, with the last piece that we looked at said, where I just said it attracts the reader, etc. That's not going to be enough for getting into band 4. Nowhere near enough. Presents a detailed explanation and interpretation of what the picture shows and its effect. So I'm going to be going into a lot of detail about that, and basically picking out all the areas or all the avenues which I can try and infer. So I'm going to try and picking up more than one thing. Links the picture and the headline to the text with perceptive comments. So perceptive there obviously is just saying that you can really see the detail on it, or it's going to be something really original, and offers appropriate quotations or references to support the comments. So let's go see if we can do that. The headline is effective as it's filled with double meanings and cultural references. Yep, good opening sentence. Up, Up and Away is the title of a song, references the title of a popular Pixar film, and was also one of the original catchphrases of the superhero Superman. So that is very, there's the detailed explanation and interpretation of the actual actual elements of the headline. So that on its own doesn't get me this. Okay, it's a good start, but it doesn't get me the marks yet at all, because I have to actually understand the effect. Okay, so let's see if we can link that strongly. This effectively links to the text because it relates to the story of a man traveling a long distance with only several dozen balloons, which is what happens in the film. Fair enough. And furthermore, it references the bravery as there are risks, and this can be linked to the bravery of Superman. I think that's a slightly weaker edition, although it's a good attempt. I don't think it's super strong. I don't think it's super weak. I just think it's weaker than this. And the link there is still quite clear. I know how it obviously is linked to the text. That's that's actually quite. It's. I like the first one more than I like the second one. I think the second one I was probably just getting carried away. But he has put in, or the student here, or the student's piece of work does actually reference 2 pieces, and they're both valid. One is stronger than the other, but they're both valid, which is still detailed. The repetition of up also gives us a great sense of height, which is emphasized through the picture and the text, as he refers to his balloon or chair contraption as an aircraft, and because he's on a flight. So good, again, detailed in the reference. I'm actually picking this up, and I'm analyzing the headline further with the use of up. So I've got more of an interpretation, because I said it gives us a great sense of height. So now I'm much more comfortable with those 2. I'm much more comfortable in saying that has been hit now. It is also clever as it ironically references armchair travelling, which is a phrase referring to people who sit and talk about travelling rather than actually doing it, whereas Mr. Trapp has actually gone on a chair and gone travelling. This links to the text further as it describes his trip to France. So this all now is hitting those hitting this one very well, and there's a lot of appropriate quotations and references been used. The reference to took off in the headline is also closely linked to set off in the article, which is very similar phrases showing the content in the headline and the article are linked. That's very good. So that's good. In fact, you could probably take out, this actually and just have gone with these 3, and it would actually have been stronger for it. Because remember, when you start to add not fluff, but slightly weaker things, you're basically inviting the examiner to look down a bit. Remember we said that they mark down, so if you kind of offer something, a couple of good points and then one kind of not so great point, you're just inviting the examiner to go, well, is that more here, and then reflect on the other 2. So if I'd have just put, I reckon, these 3 that I've highlighted now, then I'd be much stronger band 4 than with my original idea here. And sometimes that happens because basically what you find, and obviously I've done it here, is you just warm up. You just try and get things in without being exacting. So I guess the lesson there is to always really think about what you're going to put down. So now I have to go on to linking the picture. So there I made 1, 2, 3, 4 points. I probably only needed 2 or 3, but they're there anyway, so you can think about different ways of writing. Then we move on to where was it? Yes, so links the picture to the headline and the headline to the text with perceptive comments. So we've looked at linking the headline to the text quite a few times. The picture is also very powerful thanks to its size and vibrant colours, which would attract the reader. A stock answer, I have to build from that if I want to get into a 4. They would be captivated by the scene flying across the channel with only a few balloons, as this links to the dream mentioned in the article and is almost like something out of a fantasy. It is not something people would expect to see. Yep, that's very detailed. I wouldn't quite say it was extremely perceptive, but it is definitely detailed, and there are a lot of references supporting it. So if I was looking at that, I'd probably say that was a 7 more than an 8-ish type of writing, but we'll see what happens next. It's also effective as the picture is perfectly representing the trip that Mr. Trapp took, outlined in the article, strapped to a chair with several double balloons over an iconic ribbon of water. So that's, again, perfectly supported, and it's quite perceptive to link them all together. That's quite skillfully done. So I'd expect that from a student. So again, it's very strong for. It is also effective as from the size of all the other elements of picture, and we see just how far away they are, showing that it was indeed a dangerous situation, as he seems very alone and stranded, which is referenced in the text. There are links. So yeah, look, I've done it enough times to definitely warrant being in the top band there, and the examiner will give you an exact kind of mark for each one when so please go back to watch that video when it's available. But hopefully that gives you some idea of how to answer that. So you see in each one, never was anything mentioned without saying why. So we've got the took off headline and the set off, and they're linked to the content of the headline. So that wasn't what I was to pick up. But yeah, there it is. So the repetition of up gives us a sense of great high, and that's why it's, that's the effect, etc. So always pick out what it is and what the effect. The picture is very powerful thanks to its size, and it tracks the reader. And then they'd be captivated by the scene, etc. And then adding to, again, the link to the text. So you see, that's actually, I think the second half of this is better than the first. So if I was to look at, if I was to just kind of isolate exactly what I'd need to get top marks, that on its own is a better answer than with the two paragraphs on top and bottom. Either way, I'd still get the marks, but obviously in an exam where you're pressed for time, then, I wrote all these in probably 10-15 minutes, so obviously typing and correcting, forgive me for that, but basically what you're looking at here, this would be more than enough to get you the higher marks if you want to reference that. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself now. Moving on to the next one.